A ballerina's perspective, from performing with New York City Ballet and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater to publishing poetry books and mentoring kids and teens. Join us in a weekly discussion with experts to gain mental health clarity and achieve growth and moral consciousness. Give our show a 5 stars, comment, share, and come along for the ride. Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast, where we talk about all things mental health, wellness, healing, positive psychology, entrepreneurship, business tips, and so much more. And today we'll be talking with Jon, who is our guest, about all things holistic wellness and how to integrate your spiritual essence into your daily life. And Jon has over 10 years developing effective career-related programs, mentoring, and content for young professionals, including a significant presence on LinkedIn, an innovative career coaching program designed to match the person to the job, and an insights bootcamp for aspiring data analysts. He grew a LinkedIn account to 158,000 followers in 1.5 years based on career advice content for young professionals, won multiple top influencer awards for best data influencer, spoke to over 1,000 young adults from over 80 countries to learn about their career journeys and cultures, and produced 2 pieces of content every day for over 2 years with an average reach of 40K people per post. So welcome, Jon, to the podcast. So excited to chat all things spirituality and integration.
It's so funny you reading this bio because I sent you my more professional bio. For
Yes.
people listening, they're like, who's this career coach dude showing off about his LinkedIn account talking about spirituality?
I
But
mean,
I've
yeah, I
pursued
feel like most of
multiple.
our journeys are ever changing and ever shifting, and
Yeah,
we reach so many different experiences and heights in different areas in our lives, which also is amazing because we are multifaceted and multidimensional. So it's also a great testimony to you to being able to reach those different heights in different areas.
that's really kind of you. I appreciate that. And I think here's something interesting about spirituality and how it can sort of be related to other things that we do in our lives, but also not. There is a sense that we strive, right, for our spirituality. We meditate, we read, we contemplate, we connect with others, and we're on the seeking journey, right? And it's a lot of work and a lot of effort, and you're doing this and you're striving, and you're always kind of questioning why, what am I always, what is all of this for? Until you realize that all of the striving, all of the effort, all of the doing is actually meant to undo you. So that's why I was almost jarred when I'm listening to you describe how I'm describing myself as this career coach. I'm like, who is that person? How did he accomplish all of that? Is that really who he is? And it's you have this moment of like, I don't recognize that.
Wow, interesting. I think oftentimes we do things sometimes based on either peer pressure or somebody's projections of what they think we should accomplish. So I think it's important to also like realize when we are going after something or doing something, are we doing it intentionally, and are we doing it from the space of like my soul feels this is the right way, even if there is some challenges and a little bit of resistance? Are we pushing through the resistance due to fear or due to our passions to keep going and to keep figuring out what our soul is called to do?
So beautifully said, right? And how every single listener here can relate to what you just said, which is this heart versus head. I call it the heart versus head fight, right? And when I'm talking to people and I'm connecting on a soul level, I can literally feel the tension happening there between heart and head. And if you're in here, right, you're gonna make the wrong choice because this thing wants to keep you safe. Those thoughts, those karmic impressions that we have are meant for survival. They're not meant for thriving. They're meant to keep you alive. But this doesn't give a crap about that. This heart center says, at your very core, are you expressing what you need to, whether that's somebody who told you you need to or not? And so that tension and that battle is constant until you finally let this thing win.
This podcast contains affiliate links, which means I may earn a commission if you make a purchase through these links. Sanger Daniel's online seminar is the first of its kind, promoting a positive message of self-healing and healing others. If you're ready to create a pain-free, healthy, and happy life, we can work together with live seminars and remote coaching with bioenergy healing. Use code BIO20 for a 20% discount for our audience. If you are interested in checking out Sanger Daniel's online seminars, the link will be in the show notes and in the description of the podcast. Yes, it's so true. And even that, when the heart chakra is opened and expanded, it connects to the higher mind as well. So once you reach that unconditional love and that space of presence and integrity, I feel like it connects that the higher mind, the crown chakra opening up
Absolutely
upwards.
correct.
So it's like then you're able to make decisions from your thinking part of yourself and from your loving part. And I
But
think with
only when you've made that connection
right,
to the crown chakra, right? Because
yes.
otherwise, you are running the risk of letting the head control things. I agree.
Yes, exactly. And what do you think are some tips for people who have been in that brain thinking and making decisions from that
The
space and
most
wanting to integrate their heart chakra?
the most important thing, and I see this with a lot of people, you gotta turn the thinker off. And not to say that thoughts are bad, but and I was having this conversation. I just got off a call with a spiritual mentee, so I think this is helpful for this. What you just said. Um, if you're operating from here and you're letting this run the show, like I said, it's going to make the wrong decision because it wants to keep you safe. If you're operating from a place of what's called silence or stillness, the suggestion that I make is every single person out there needs a practice where they leave the thoughts behind and sit with silence and stillness and let that be their being and operate from that place instead of the other way around, which is the thoughts leading the way. So the recommendation that I make is everyone needs a stillness practice. Every single person out there needs a way to say, oh, yeah, I can connect to something that's bigger than me or that's in me, but feels very powerful and grounded, not often the monkey mind of a million different directions at the same time.
This podcast contains affiliate links, which means I may earn a commission if you make a purchase through these links. Unlock your best life with Soul app. Book a holistic wellness experience with a trained guide and start changing your life today with compassion practices, inner healing, food and diet, and so much more. Tap into a healthier and happier life with the #1 purposeful living app in the US. If you're interested in checking out the Soul app, the link will be in the show notes and in the description of the podcast. 100%. I remember I was writing articles about spirituality and meditation and finding your center, and I wrote an article recently about silent therapy. And during the day, if you're able to be in a safe environment, just to not speak for a few hours in the day, whether it's in the morning or the evening or whenever you have feasible time. And trying this myself with a few of my friends, it was so interesting because the thoughts that arise, these subconscious thoughts, they're so extreme in a way that the things that come to us when we're unaware and we just project that outwardly without even realizing the intention. And once you're forced to be in that space, like you mentioned, the silence, the quietness, you enter the void and are forced to integrate those confusing entity attachments or projections from other people. And when you don't react, you're also kind of like healing your nervous system, that fight flight response, and you're able to reset and then make
Yes.
decisions that are more grounded, and you'll be less reactive and you'll be more just responding out of a space of consciousness, common sense, and that's the most holistic way to make decisions at the end of the day.
That's right. And it all comes from the point that you made, which is the silence leads the way, and then the loudness emanates from the silence, right? I
Yes,
don't know if
exactly.
that's going to resonate with your listeners, but that's how I live my life now. I live from a place of silence and watching form or whatever it is, thoughts, whatever phenomena we have, feelings, sensations, whatever it is that we're feeling. If you're operating from a place of a knowing silence, you have this level of confidence that you're just like, this, it feels right in a different kind of way.
That is beautiful, actually, to reach that state of silence and to not be afraid of that. Did you have to go through something or like a longer process, or you had to
I
accept that?
I describe myself as I basically went through monk training on my own, and I think it is worth bringing it up to people that to reach a level of silence requires training. I think in spiritual communities, there's a lot of spiritual cotton candy is what I want to call it. There's a lot of belief in quick fixes or bliss or it's just so easy, but the journey's hard, and I don't think enough people talk about that to get to a place of silence, to get to a place of operating from your deepest truth requires a lot of work. And people don't want to hear that because they don't want to do work, right? They're being promised by gurus or spiritual folks that there's nothing to do. But those people who are saying there's nothing to do, go learn about how much they had to do to get to that place where there's nothing to do, right? Look at Adyashanti. Dude spent 15 years in a Zen monastery, right? These people have done a lot to get to a place where they can say there's nothing left to do. And I'm coming here and I'm open and honest about it. I worked my ass off to get here. It was 4 hours a day of meditation and, a massive gratitude practice and reading contemplative literature. All of that's taking place while I'm trying to get to this place of stillness, right? And it is work, is what I'm trying to say. And it does take a significant amount of discipline and practice.
100%. It takes so much courage as well to look at those parts of yourself, whether it is your shadow self or it is that ego that is very hyperly overreactive towards different people. It's also getting underneath those triggers that we have around situations or different timelines that come up repetitively. And I think a lot of people also, when they're experiencing this stagnation, that's the most difficult thing, I think, to sit in the silence when they're in the cycle of seemingly stagnation. Have you experienced that where it's just like you have to repeat those cycles and remain in a way silent to hear the deeper meaning and purpose?
The problem that people have is that they still believe there's an I doing things. So whatever's happening to people, they take it personally, right? They view their triggers as a personal thing that they then own, and they react from that ego place. Where instead, where I am right now is I get triggered all the time. There, I operate from a place of, wow, I got really triggered. That's interesting. Wonder what's going on there. Okay, time to bring out some unconditional love for myself, right? Build the self compassion, go through that process and watch, as
Yeah.
opposed to, wow, I take that personally, that happened to me. There's a understanding that there's no me that anything's happening to. There's just karmic imprints from past relationships that are primarily familial that I have no control over, that are a part of my DNA and my being, that live within me, that are reacting to something, and I don't have any control over that. so I can watch it. It's like a show.
And did you ever have the awareness of shifting from the temper tantrum of me, my emotions, my ego, that in a way victimhood, selfish little child? Did you have an awareness of shifting from that towards the really confident, conscious, present, questioning the triggers and being so mindful of that? I
Isn't
think
that the
that's
journey,
challenging.
Ari? Isn't that the journey? You
Yes,
just explained what the
totally.
journey is. The journey is moving from that place of I take this personally as a separate being to I can dispassionately watch this and not get caught up in it. That's the difference between suffering and pain, right? As humans, every moment of our day is pain. Even bliss is pain. And I'll explain this right now, right? Like I'm in a constant state of bliss most of the time, right? It's always blissful feelings and sensations in me. But like I can watch that. It's not me. It's something that is a part of me but isn't me. The same thing goes for those thoughts and those emotions. They're all to be watched. That means that I'm living from a place of not suffering because there's no personal me who is, it's not glomming on at all. It just goes away. Does it make
And
sense?
yes, that kind of does. But then when it comes to like identity and how many people are figuring out their identity or trying to choose a label, what is your take on having an identity? Do you have an identity? And is it important to label yourself?
Identities are important in relating to others. Identities are a detriment to ourselves on the spiritual path. So we all need identities so that people can label us as something and feel comfortable around us, right? I said I'm a career coach. Oh, okay. I said I'm a spiritual being. Oh, okay, cool. You meditate, right? Like these are all signifiers of who we are. But if you personally take any of these identities as who you are, you will suffer. That is a guarantee. Identities, because let me point this out to you, right? Let's say that I consider myself an enlightened being, right? Let's just use this as an identity. Hi, I'm John. I'm enlightened. Okay, so I believe that. And then, Ari, what happens when you say, no, you're not enlightened? Well, I am enlightened. Now I'm suffering because you attacked that identity that I believe myself to be enlightened. There's an I there, right? And you're saying, no, you're not. Now I'm suffering because that identity that I held onto, that I'm enlightened, you're attacking it. That's suffering because I own that identity. And the same can be said for any identity.
That's brilliant because I think so often when we do communicate or interact with people with the outside world and there's so much competition and there's so much energy about labeling and identifying yourself and your status and there's so much comparison going on. So your perspective is so refreshing because that awareness will kind of release you from that constant competitive nature of
Sorry, Ari, I'm just really excited by what you're saying, so I just did a little dance.
yes. Duly noted. Yes.
But you're absolutely correct. Freedom, spiritual and psychological freedom, is freedom from identification of the I. I'm not the first person to say that. Every single mystical person alive who's ever reached certain levels of spiritual attainment has said the exact same thing. And it's true. Now, I'm not saying that identities don't have their place, but if you hold on to a certain belief about yourself as true with a separate I, you're going to suffer. It's a
And the
fact.
interest,
I just proved
yeah,
it.
yes. And the interesting thing is that so often the identities are actually placed on you by somebody else. So that's the most interesting thing is you're kind of trying to keep up with other people's expectations of your identity that's rooted perhaps in their own fear-based narrative that has nothing to do with your own awareness of who you are.
Amen. I mean, that's exactly right, right? When we take on And it's a brilliant point you just made. And I want to address it because I think you're absolutely correct. When you take on an identity, most likely it's not coming from your soul. It's coming from expectations that are either societal or friend or family, something from a fear based expectation of do this or else. You're not taking on yourself, you're taking on someone else or something else. And that's a drain on your energy.
100%. And I think so often as well, it might be even ancestral trauma kind of
100%.
perpetuating itself, or at least attempting to perpetuate itself to keep fulfilling those roles within old versions of society that are people pleasing solely or just completely detached from your own essence.
And this is the gosh, I love everything you're saying, Ari, because this is the essence of why bypassing happens, spiritual bypassing. Because we don't want to look at that really painful stuff, that ancestral trauma, those identities that are put on us. We want to live in spiritual comfort mode that keeps us firmly in charge and places like almost like a marshmallow layer on top of some of this pain, rather than just looking at the pain and being like, yeah, that's there. That's where we
Yeah,
get into trouble spiritually. I don't get into arguments very often online, right? But if I see somebody bypassing, I will call it out 100% of the time. Because nothing on the spiritual path sets you back further than not acknowledging that we are everything that is happening to us, and that everything is okay, and that all experiences are okay. And that if you say, I like this experience over this one, you're bypassing. You can't say that.
exactly. Yes, that is so true. I wrote a little note down that after your post, you wrote something about criticism sucks, but it's your growth fuel. And that's so true. It's kind of like there are so many versions of criticism, whether that is actually constructive criticism that's based on not a biased version, and that's something that actually has integrity and moral value and something that can help you to shift. How how can you dissect that? People want to give criticism. How can you know if it is actually inspired or it is solely ego based?
Okay, this is a fun conversation. This is where inner child and shadow work comes in. When someone criticizes you, you got to go inside and talk to that inner child and say, what was hurt? How come you're hurt right now? How can I love you more? You have to do that first. You have to go into the hurt. You have to say, God, you know what? Someone criticized me. That hurt. And acknowledge it. Not bypass it. Not say, I'm tougher than that. No, that's bullshit. You're not. Go into the hurt and feel it. Now, once you do that and you've dealt with your inner child and you know, they feel safe, then you can do what you said, which is let me take an adult rational, let me go into my adult, you know, system, family system, however you want to call it. Go into my adult self and let's reflect on this dispassionately and without emotion. How much of it was their shit when they criticized me? Okay, let's go through that. Let's analyze that. Okay, well, you know, they've had these feelings about this, and I know them about that, and you know, it could have triggered this. Okay, great, got that. How much is a truth about how I behaved and affected them that if I change it in the future will lead to more harmonious relations? Okay, let me go and figure that out. That's something I can grow with. Do you see this holistic process? You wanted
Yes.
holistic from me, Ari? That's holistic.
Yes.
It's a godly process of unconditional love for yourself and your hurt side, while also acknowledging that you have room to grow as a human. We all do.
That's amazing. I think it's so inspired when we see men acting with a desire to connect to the part of their inner child that remains so unseen and
I
hidden
don't
from.
see myself as a man. That's a label. Do you understand? Like
Yes.
just then and there, you're like a man, and you forced me into my egoic self. I'm like, oh, I'm a man? I didn't know that. I forgot. Oh, okay.
I think some labels give us some kind of groundedness, don't you think, though? It
When it
gives
comes
us
to
a clarity.
spirituality, though, you are making assumptions about what it's like to be a man. And I'm
Perhaps.
taking those assumptions in, and I'm like, that's interesting. I'm just a being who's being and expressing. The man label you put on me.
Yeah.
Do
And
I
yeah,
think it's useful? We talked about that. It's useful for you to categorize me so that you have certain schemas and projections that you can then take into your own world and say, yes, this guy can fit within these roles or things or schemas that I have around what it means to be a man.
but don't we also grow up in those roles as we are clearing those ancestral lineages and timelines? We still embody aspects of that physically, and we feel those emotions connected to that, right?
I don't see how me being a man and expressing my being has anything to do with each other.
I think, though, identity as part of, for example, female identity connecting to the sisterhood is, it might seem like a label, but it also is a very healing expression
Well,
of,
that's connecting to divine feminine. That's not gendered. That's energy.
perhaps it's energy mixed in with gender, as it's also connecting to the feminine moon cycles, which is also based on the woman's reproduction process, and that's also
It's whatever
gender
you believe.
based.
These are all beliefs. You can believe it if it helps you, if it makes you feel comfortable, if it fits within your system of how you think about things in the world, then that's wonderful. But they're not truths, what you're saying.
What is
They're
truth? What
beliefs.
is absolute
The
truth?
absolute truth is that we die and our body disintegrates. Beyond that, we don't know anything.
Are we born? Do we know we are born?
That's a bit more complicated. Because if you are in the formless realm of form, there is no birth and no death. Okay, now I just talked myself out of. But we do know that this form, this body of ours, will disintegrate at some point. That is an absolute truth. Everything is impermanent. Buddhism says it. That we know for sure. Everything else is a relative truth that helps us get through the world.
We do have our own like personal and collective truths that we feel comfortable aligning with or tuning into. And then we experience those based on our own projections and perceptions.
I agree. We all do it. But getting back to the point about gender, I could join a sisterhood. Why not? What's stopping me from joining a sisterhood? I'm very connected to my divine feminine. Why would
It's
I not be
true.
welcome in that space?
I mean, perhaps there are gender rules that people have which are in place to prevent certain issues that people interpret as
I just
problematic.
don't I just don't want to live in a world where certain characteristics belong to a certain gender. It just doesn't ring true to me. Truth is truth. Experience is experience. Love is love. These are not gendered things.
Yes, as we learn, as we experience spirituality, we all experience it in different ways, and we're trying to find our truth within the universal flow of creation.
What is universal flow of creation?
I think it means realigning to newer versions of yourself continuously.
Is newer better?
Newer is pure, like crystalline,
So you're saying that the goal of this is to get closer to source,
closer to yourself.
which is yourself. Yes. But the very core of that is our soul, right?
Yes.
I agree.
Beyond the limitations, the blockages, the shadow
Right.
aspects, and
Yes.
those are also perfect, and those are part of who we are, and we don't have to
Yes.
abandon or neglect that. But
Yes.
processing through that does help us see clearer. It clears our chakra system, our third eye, so we are able to see sometimes even deeper truths that our past self would say wholeheartedly, no, this is the truth. And then once we go through
Mm.
different experiences, we may question that truth and shift towards a newer truth. So who's to say which truth is the truth?
No one is.
That's the
Because
experience
it's
of
all a giant
spiritual.
mystery. There's no truth. There's just our own way of operating in the world and
Yes,
how we see
exactly.
it. But there is an absolute, right? There is a source. There is a connection to something greater. I think we all feel that. What that is manifests for different people at different, like to your point, it can, like, previous John, whatever that source was, integrated in a very different way than this version of John. So you're right. It's always changing and metamorphosizing, and we don't know where it's going. But
Yes,
I agree.
100%. Yes. Wow, what a like beautiful conversation. I feel like I could talk for hours on this topic. It's so fun and enlightening. So, John, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your wisdom and your growth with our community. And where can people connect with you and see your content as well?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Threads. I think my handle is Jonathan Tesser one. And if you're more interested in my career stuff, I am starting a startup. It's called Journey Up, and it is aimed towards young professionals who want to find career clarity. Based on this conversation, I think most people would want to, if they're interested in anything I had to say, just come find me on Threads.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your very inspired and spiritual journey with us, hopefully to help people also connect to themselves and to find newer versions of themselves without fear and with unconditional love and acceptance.
I hope so. That would be wonderful.